shorts and sandals one day, sundresses and tees the next, and swimwear, I can't stay away. Check out this one-piece wonder. You'll rule the beach. Even if I never take a swim. Best thing, there are new items every week. Great stuff for the pool, the beach, the grill. Yeah, when it comes to summer, it's Macy's Backstage for the win. Visit Macy'sBackstage.com for locations.
The views expressed in the previous program did not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 DF-FM 95.9 Freeport, New York. This is...
Oh, it is back. Indeed it is. Come on, join Go Party every Saturday. Bowling with Ace and the Preacher Man. You can reserve your lane. 516-599-1134. That's right. Join Go Party every Saturday. Bowling with Ace and the Preacher Man. Reserve your lane. 516-599-1134. Live gospel only DJ. We have special guests and lots of prizes. June, July, and August. The lane is only $35, 1 to 4 people. And 1 hour unlimited bowling with shoes. That's right, at the Second E Lanes, 342 Hempstead Avenue, Melbourne, New York. Or go to GospelCelebration1240.com. That's right, join Go Party every Saturday. Bowling with Ace and the Preacher Man. Reserve your lane, 516-599-1134. Live gospel DJ, special guests, and lots of prize. Taking place June, July, August. Lane is only $35, 1 to 4 people. And 1 hour unlimited bowling with shoes. That's right. Time 5 to 8 p.m. Second E Lanes, 342 Hempstead Avenue, Melbourne, New York. Go to GospelCelebration1240.com for more information. That's right. Join us June, July, and August for the very best at bowling with Ace and the Preacher Man.
This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 DF-FM 95.9 Freeport, New York.
The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB.
Live from West Babylon, New York, this is Sports Talk 1240.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sports Talk 1240. I am your host, Rob Cramer. I'll be taking you through this first hour over here on May 27th, 2018, on a beautiful Sunday night here in New York. And we are live here on WGBB, 1240 AM, 95.9 FM. And, it's Memorial Day weekend here, and I just want to start the show off by giving, tipping a cap to all the men and women in uniform who have made the ultimate sacrifice for this country and for everybody living in this country. And, I just want to start off by, you have to respect it. Those people that made the ultimate sacrifice are, some of the greatest people that this country has to offer. And that's what this weekend's all about. That's what tomorrow is all about. And that's what we should all remember. And so after that, I just want to, remind everybody here on Sports Talk 1240 to check us out on Facebook. Give us a like over there. Sports Talk 1240 on Twitter. And check us out on SportsTalk1240.com to see who's hosting some great articles and hear all of our old shows. I'd like to thank Rob and Brian for helping me out today. And, I'm very happy to be back for a second straight week doing Sports Talk 1240. And I'd like to kick it off with the Yankees. We're going to be talking about, Masahiro Tanaka's great performance today. It was a shame that we didn't get to see the Ohtani, Tanaka, big Japanese pitcher duel. It's a real shame because that would have been great. But we did see a great pitcher's duel no matter what, as Tanaka ended up, given 6 really strong innings. He threw 100 pitches and only allowed a run. They ended up winning 3-1. Tanaka carried a shutout through 5, and it was great to see him step up in a big spot. The Angels are a good team. This clinched the series victory for the Yankees there, as they take 2 of 3 from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And, like I said, the Angels are a good team. They got past. You managed to escape this weekend after Mike Trout really broke out, too. He had, I guess you really can't say break out because the guy's hitting over 300 already. But he went 5 for 5, career day, 3 doubles, home run, 4 RBIs on Saturday night. And you kind of got worried. You're saying, Tanaka is susceptible to having bad games. And, maybe Trout gives him some problems on Sunday afternoon. But that was not the case. And Tanaka got the job done, and the Yankees win 3-1. You had RBIs from the middle to the bottom of the lineup. Hicks, Andujar getting the job done. And, that's the type of win you need. Aroldis Chapman did not make it look easy in the ninth inning. But he got the job done. He threw 20-something pitches, but he got out of it. Yankees win. They're 33-16 and sitting a game behind Boston, so you can't complain. And I like the way the Yankees rebounded. I was worried last week. They had, the 3-game series in Texas where it didn't go their way. I mean, obviously they beat up on Bartolo in that first one, but then you drop the second game, and then on Wednesday you have a big lead, and the bullpen completely implodes, giving that up. Tommy Kahnle's looked like garbage. You have Robertson getting lit up in that game, and it definitely made you worried. And that's the type of loss that can linger for a couple of weeks. That's the type of loss that can put you on a downward spiral. Not necessarily a deadly one, but something that could really put the Yankees, when they came out of it, maybe 4 or 5 games behind Boston at the rate they're going. But that was not the case. Like I said, they came out, they won the series against Anaheim, and they did not let that loss linger. And, but when you take a look back at this weekend, one of the other takeaways you have to have is Sonny Gray. You say to yourself, last Sunday when I came on the air, I was talking about how great Sonny Gray was. What a great performance he had after not pitching up to his expectations so far this season. He was getting knocked around 2-3 before last week with an ERA over 5. Then he goes out and throws 8 innings last week against a pretty decent offense in Kansas City. Can be spotty at times, but he got the job done. They are a major league team, and he threw 8 innings in a great victory for them. He got pounded the other night, man. I mean, 7 hits, bunch of runs. He didn't even make it out of the 4th inning, and you really have to worry about Sonny Gray if you're the Yankees. But one thing you can take from it is that Sonny Gray, you're not counting on him to be anything more than a 4 or 5 starter. If he's a 4 or 5 starter, then for you, the Yankees are in good shape. If you're counting on him, if somebody goes down, if CC goes down, then things could start to get ugly real quick if you're starting to count on big games from Sonny Gray. But, now the Yankees really have the opportunity. If they go out, because obviously they're not going to have Domingo Germán going, as the number 5 guy all year. He had a couple of good starts, but he's not going to be there all year. The Yankees are going to find somebody, whether it comes from inside their system or they're going to trade for a starter, potentially a high-end starter, because they have the farm system to go out there and do it. But, Domingo Germán is not going to be long for this rotation, although he is scheduled to be locked up with Justin Verlander tomorrow in a ALCS matchup here, rematch right here on Memorial Day. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. But you never know what you're going to get out of that kid. He's still a young kid. He's still figuring himself out, and he's still, everybody, including the Yankees, is still trying to figure out if he has a spot on this major league rotation. I guess we'll see. But in the long run, the Yankees are going to get somebody down the line, and then you won't really have to rely on Sonny Gray for as much as you are right now. But that really all depends on the health of the Yankee rotation, and so far they're holding up, except for Montgomery. But you've had Germán step up, and he's been decent. But when we look at this upcoming series against the Houston Astros, you got the matchup tomorrow between Verlander and Domingo Germán. On Tuesday, you have CC against Charlie Morton, and Charlie Morton has just been ridiculous. He's throwing 96, 97 miles an hour right now. He's 7-0, 7-0 for a guy Charlie Morton. Man, this guy was a swing pitcher for the Phillies and the Pirates, and anybody could have had him. Anybody, and he goes to the eventual world champion Astros and just completely turns his career around. I've never seen anything like it. It's it's really one of a kind. And Charlie Morton really likes to dig in against the Yankees. He had a great start earlier this month against the Yankees in Houston, where he struck out 10, didn't allow a run. He was incredible. And now he's going to get a chance to do that again, this time at Yankee Stadium on Tuesday night against CC Sabathia. So that's going to be, scheduled viewing right there. You're going to want to see. You're going to want to see if CC can come back against his bad start, with the Kansas City Royals last Friday. You want to see if he comes back from the so-so start he had last week. But I expect CC to be decent. He's usually good for 5 or 6 innings. You can always expect that of CC. He's a real pro. He's a guy that goes out there and gets the job done. And Charlie Morton, he's been a phenom lately, but the one thing I would like to see is, can he get it done at Yankee Stadium? He's great at his ballpark. And obviously he's 7-0, so he's been great away from his ballpark this year too. But Yankee Stadium's a different animal. You get in there and everything, you're facing Judge, the bleacher creatures are going crazy, the stadium is going nuts. It's going to be very, obviously he did it in, the ALCS too, so I'm not saying the guy hasn't done it in big situations, but Yankee Stadium is one of a kind. There's no doubt about it. So then on so it's a 3-game set. It's just going to be, it's a huge series. It ends up with Severino and Keuchel on Wednesday night, and I laid a whole bunch of praise on Severino last week, and very deservingly. He's a great pitcher, and that's going to be the one of the biggest matchups this series, because the Yankees need to win when Severino's on the mound, no doubt about it. And the Houston Astros have not been winning when Dallas Keuchel's on the mound. So, something's got to give here. Let's see if the Yankees can keep it rolling, and that's something they need to do. You just need to keep winning series at this point. Okay, they dropped one in Texas last week. You lost 2 out of 3, but it's not a big deal. You're still 33-16, a game behind Boston, and you've got nothing to worry about. The New York Yankees will be fine. I'm pretty sure about that. As for the other side of town, there's a reason why I started with the Yankees, because I'm having a good Memorial Day weekend. I didn't want to ruin my weekend by going to the team that is just complete torture at this point to watch. It just seems like everything that can go wrong will go wrong. I mean, last week when I was sitting in this exact same chair, I was shocked to be reporting to you that the New York Mets had just finished a sweep of the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was a shock. The only team going worse than the Mets were the Diamondbacks, and it looked that way. The Mets got the job done. They swept them out. Well, after that, the wheels kind of fell off. The Mets won on Monday behind Jason Vargas, which was a miracle in itself, but they went out and blew the next 2 games in ugly fashion, most notably on Wednesday night, when Jerry's Familia blew another save, and the Mets lost that game 2-1, costing Jacob deGrom one of his most dominant outings of the season. And the most shocking thing of all, though, is that Mickey Callaway, after the game, actually was asked what he thinks about Jerry's Familia this year. And Mickey Callaway actually said that Jerry's Familia is the best version of himself and is having a career year. Now, Mickey, I love you. Well, I don't know. At this point, the jury's still out. But what are you saying? How can you say that Jerry's Familia... 2015, Jerry's Familia. Okay, now I'm starting to sound like Francesa. But 2015, Jerry's Familia was the best version of Jerry's Familia. You couldn't touch the guy. He was one of the best relievers in baseball that year until the World Series. And even throughout the playoffs leading up to the World Series, he was one of the best in baseball. Especially after that blown save in July against the Padres, which a lot of Met fans will remember, the opposite field home run by Justin Upton. After that game, Jerry's Familia was, I would say even that season, the best reliever in baseball for the rest of that year. Maybe Wade Davis was the only one better, but one of the top 2. And he has not even been close to that pitcher since that season. 2016, he was decent, but I don't know. He's resembled a lot more John Franco lately, and Armando Benitez from those days, where even when he's good, he kind of takes you on a dance through the inning, where you're lucky if you get out of it unscathed. And this season, he's got a 77% save conversion rate, which basically means that he's blown like 4 saves in 17 opportunities, which isn't that bad. But 77% is the second worst in the league. I mean, that's not good. That's not good. If you're around 90%, okay, that means 16 of 17, 15 of 17, something like that. But when you're hanging around at the bottom of the league in that, don't try to sell to the fan base, which is a smart fan base, Mickey. I'm sorry. We may be an angry fan base at times, but we're smart for the most part. And Jerry Smelia is not having a, you know, a career year. He's not even having an all-star year. He's not having any kind of year. He's having an okay year, maybe for an eighth inning guy, if he wasn't blowing these saves. How many Jacob deGrom wins has he blown? At least 2. He's blown Noah Syndergaard. He blew that win in St. Louis. So he's at least, between our top 2 starters, he's at least blown 3 wins off the top of my head. And, he's it's just been very surprising. And, let's talk about blown games now as I get off Mickey and we come to this weekend. And the Mets, the last 2 days, they blew leads of 3-0, 5-3, 4-1, and 6-4. I mean, does anything else even need to be said? They lost 8-7 today. They lost 17-6 yesterday. 17-6. No. It was not a football game. It was, believe it or not, a baseball game. And the New York Mets dropped that game. One thing I could take away from this weekend is, can Jerry Blevins get a guy out, specifically a lefty? This guy's supposed to be a left-handed specialist. He's supposed to come in and get the job done, and he's done nothing of the sort this year. He couldn't get a lefty out to save his life at this point. And, I'm not trying to sound like Bobby the Brain Heenan there, but he's just not getting the job done. And, they've been giving these run back as soon as they score them. They were up 3-0 in the first inning. Boom, it's 3-3 the next time. They were up 5-3 at one point. Next thing you know, it's 6-5. Today every lead they had just got erased immediately, and right now they have all the hallmarks of a bad team. When they pitch good, they can't score. When they hit, they can't pitch. The bullpen is just terrible, and that's a bad team. That's all you can say. So far, it looks like that 11-1 start that had everybody electrified in the city was, a mirage. It was terrible, and I just don't get it. You have Wilmer Flores now. They're talking about him going to the DL. He's flying back to New York to get an MRI on his back, and he does not look good. And even in he had started to hit a little bit recently, but his defense is just atrocious. The guy can't make a throw to first base. I don't get it. The one thing about his game, though, that Wilmer does have is that he doesn't strike out a lot. So, I'll give him that. But the defensive part of his game has just completely fallen apart. And that's one thing that annoyed me, too, about Mickey Callaway, is that the defense has been terrible. And to sit there and have Mickey Callaway actually asked, he was asked this weekend how he feels about the infield defense, and he actually said that he's happy with it. You're happy with it? The only guy in that infield defense that I'm actually happy with is Adrian Gonzalez. And he's a 36-year-old first baseman that has no future with this team. And I like Adrian. He's going to be good for this season. He's been good already, but he's not going to be on the team next year. Where is he going to be going forward? We have to get guys on this team that know how to play defense. And Rosario's been good. He's been an upgrade. He's been okay. But he's botched a couple of bad, easy plays out there. And, Estribal Cabrera has been okay. Like I said, Flores was terrible at third. And Frazier was good when he was there, but he hasn't been there in 3 weeks now. Supposedly now he's on his way to Las Vegas to begin a rehab assignment. So there's that. But, when Reyes has been in, he's been terrible defensively. And, where do you go from there? They have no defense. I like that behind the plate, which is an infield defense, but I like that behind the plate it looks like Devin Mesorasko has added a little bit there, blocking balls better, and he does have a good arm behind the plate, so I do like him. But as for the infield defense, to have Mickey Callaway, Mickey, I like to exist in a little place called reality. And I know that you like to paint everything with a rainbow brush, and make everything sound good because you're the manager. You don't want to knock anybody. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. But you're talking to New York City. These people, we're not going to buy these lines when when you try to explain things away and talk about the process, and people aren't going to buy it. Just be honest. And that's the best that you can do by sitting here and saying, "Oh, infield defense is you're happy with it," and you can't be happy with it because if you are happy with it, then I'm not happy with you as manager, and that's a problem. I was very enthusiastic with Mickey that he was going to help improve this pitching, and that especially I like their coach they brought in, Gary DiSarcina, and it does look like he has improved Ahmed Rosario's, you know, defensive ability a little bit out there. But you still see Rosario still young, so he's a work in progress. I got no problem with Rosario. It's just that the infield defense has not been good, so don't say it is. That's the bottom line. And so like I said, Frazier's starting rehab tomorrow in Las Vegas. They said Cespedes began a running program, so he's going to be potentially maybe even joining him in Vegas, but I don't know if Mets are going to send him all the way out there. I would think the only reason Frazier is going to Vegas is because he's going to be there a couple of days. You wouldn't just send a guy all the way out there to play one game and bring him back in. So he'll probably be there for at least 2 or 3 days, maybe even longer, just to get his sea legs back underneath him. But Cespedes, I could see them send him to a couple of games in Binghamton and bring him back because you never know. The quad is always going to be a problem with him. The hip, it's always going to be a leg problem. So, I don't think he's going to need that much time to get himself back up into shape. But while the guys are out right now, the Mets have, they've kept themselves above water. They've kept their head above water. They've been able to stay above 500, and the main thing though is that if they won the game today, it would have felt a lot better. You split a series from one of the top teams in the National League, and suddenly you're feeling a lot better. You're getting on a plane going to Atlanta, which man, I'm not looking forward to tomorrow. I have a feeling it's gonna be ugly. We'll be lucky to win one of those games tomorrow. I know sweeping a doubleheader is hard, so maybe we'll have a better chance anyway. But I don't know. DeGrom being on the hill tomorrow, the pitching has just been terrible. What are they going to do in Game 2? They still haven't even announced who's starting Game 2 yet. Mickey hinted that it could be one of those bullpen games. What does that mean? Are you going to throw Seth Lugo out there for 2 innings to start the game? Are you going to supposedly they're calling up P.J. Conlon for the game tomorrow. They're going to have an ability to bring in a 26th man. So maybe he'll be that. Maybe they'll start P.J. Conlon. I don't know. And for those that don't know, P.J. Conlon's the lefty that made his major league debut last month. So he's got 1 game under his belt. He's born in Ireland, Belfast, Ireland, and so we'll see. I'm not looking forward to this week. We got 4 games against Atlanta, followed by 4 games against the Cubs. So who knows for how many of those games the Mets are going to have, or even if any, Mets are going to have Frazier and Cespedes available. This is a make or break week. If they come out of this still over 500, they might have some hope. But this is definitely a make or break week. Especially now you have Flores out, so you're going to have Batista, who's been on the team for a week. Jose Batista, 37-year-old, is going to be playing third base tomorrow. They're going to be bringing back Phillip Evans from Vegas, the young kid, 23, 24 years old. So they're going to bring him up, and he'll probably play one of those games. But, it's not that I don't like Jose Bautista. I'm happy Jose Bautista's on this team, but for him to already be playing a role this significant is not good. The Mets are losing players left and right, and having him out there just shows how shallow the Mets' depth is. And there's really nothing you can do about that, especially mid-season. You gotta. That's one of the reasons they brought Omar Minaya back, because Sandy has just not done a good job keeping this team flush with prospects. And Omar Minaya, one of his best traits is being able to build a farm system. He knows all and then he'd have an influence at each level too. So it looks like Sandy's kind of been hands off. He'll hire a guy to take care of the minor leagues and just will go and draft the guys. But I don't know. His approach so far has not been good. So maybe bringing Omar back to take care of that will be a good thing. But then when you sit and you look across town and see what the Yankees are dealing with prospect-wise, you just got to be jealous. And just a couple of years ago, it was the complete opposite. And in 5 minutes, in 5 minutes we're gonna be taking a little break. We're gonna be doing this day in sports history. We're gonna be talking about the NBA playoffs. We're gonna be talking about the NHL playoffs. And can you believe the Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, on a run all the way to the Stanley Cup? And that's something that we've never seen, an expansion team in a sports championship. So we're going to be checking all that out in a couple of minutes. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And thanks for joining us.
You are listening to Sports Talk 1240 on Long Island's AM 1240. WGBB.
Country Foot Care, official podiatrist of the New York City, advocating state-of-the-art foot care with good old-fashioned caring to Long Island
Mets,
guys. Specialists in sports medicine and foot injuries. Country Foot Care.
Sports history.
516-741 or online at countryfootcare.com.
Want to advertise your business on SportsTalk 1240? Place an ad on SportsTalk1240.com.
I'm going to have
radio commercial during
four
the show
things.
every Sunday night here
Be
on
four little
AM
things, and then I'm going to
1240
say,
WGBB. Our rates are very affordable.
it'll be,
We'll even
and on
produce the
May
radio
27th,
commercial for you.
1994, this
Just head
happened.
over to SportsTalk1240.com.
Well, point anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be pointing it. Thank you, man.
You got it.
Unclippable, uncrappable, unleakable. The Gustbuster is the only umbrella that won't flip inside out, rip, tear, or leak. Withstanding winds over 55 miles per hour. All of our umbrellas are constructed of the finest quality materials and backed by a limited lifetime guarantee. What are you waiting for? Visit Gustbuster.com and get your Gustbuster today. Stay connected to Sports Talk 1240 by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Sports Talk 1240.
You're listening to Sports Talk.
Rob.
1240.
Rob,
Broadcasting every
bring the mic
Sunday
closer
night
to you.
Pull it closer.
A little closer to you.
Here on Long Island's AM 1240 WGBB, the station that serves your community. And now back to the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sports Talk 1240, and it's this day in sports history. May 27th, 1933, the Yankees trail 11-3 heading into the bottom of the 8th against the Chicago White Sox at Yankee Stadium before erupting for 12 runs, highlighted by home runs from two Hall of Famers, a solo shot from Lou Gehrig, and a grand slam from Bill Dickey as the Yankees came back to win 15-11. On May 27, 1948, Hall of Famer Hank Greenberg officially buys interest in the Cleveland Indians, making him one of the first Jewish owners in Major League Baseball. On May 27, 1968, the National League awards franchises to Montreal and San Diego, clearing the way for the expansion Expos and Padres to begin play in 1969. On May 27, 1982, John McMullen buys the NHL's Colorado Rockies and gets immediate approval to move them to New Jersey and become the Devils. And 12 years later, on that same day, May 27th, 1994, this happened.
Kicks off to the Devils, plays it cross ice into the far corner. Then Tom swoops it to intercept. That's all behind the net. Squeeze it in front.
And Howie rose with that call as the New York Rangers advanced to the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 1979, where 2.5 weeks later they would win their first Stanley Cup since 1940. And that's this day in sports history, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here on Sports Talk 1240, right here on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend as we head into Memorial Day tomorrow. We got just tipping off, actually. It's 8:30 right now. Just tipping off in a couple of minutes. We got the NBA playoffs starting up again. We got Cleveland and Boston tonight. Epic Game 7. But I want to pick it up from last night, actually, before we get into tonight's game. The Western Conference Finals, what an epic series this has been. I really didn't think that it was going to go past 5, to be honest. I thought Golden State was going to take out Houston pretty early. I was wrong. And, Houston won that Game 5, forcing Golden State back on its heels in Game 6. Chris Paul was not available for Game 6, which was a huge blow to this team. As, everybody knows, obviously, Chris Paul is a great facilitator, a great player, and, a lot of people are rooting for him to win his first NBA championship. It's a lot of sentiment online that he is the most deserving player, at least left in the finals right now, that just hasn't won a championship at this point in his career. But, when you look at Golden State coming back last night, winning 115-86 on their home court, forcing a Game 7, going back to Houston tomorrow night. But the really impressive thing was in the second half, they outscored them 64-25. Everything that went wrong for Golden State at the end of Game 5 went right in the second half of Game 6. And boy, everything went wrong at the end of Game 5. Steve Kerr really dropped the ball a couple of times. There was just a lot of sloppy play. They did not look like they had their heads in their game. And it showed on the court, and that was the final as they lost 98-94. But last night, that was not the case as they ripped the hinges off in the second half. 115-86 is the final, as I said. And, one thing about this, too, is that James Harden gets a lot of love, and he should. He's a great player. But, man, when the game was on the line and everything, he had 32 points, which is great. He had a great game. But he doesn't scare me in the big moment. He's 4-12 from 3. He looked shaky. And, man, Steph Curry was all over him defensively, especially in the second half. I've very rarely seen Curry swarm the way he did, and boy, he was all over him. He was like glue on him. But, if I'm looking at Houston, if there's a guy that I need to make a big shot, I'm putting it in the hands of Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon would scare me much more with the ball in his hands than James Harden. This guy was 4-6 from 3 in the game, scored 19 points in a losing effort. But still, those aren't eye-popping numbers. But he's a guy that's got the touch for it. And I would not hesitate to let him take the big shot in the big moment. Game 7 takes place tomorrow night, Memorial Day, in Houston. It's 9 p.m. It's going to be a classic. I do expect Golden State to win. Golden State, man, you could really make the case that they got 4 Hall of Famers on their team. It's kind of hard to go against them, right? I know Houston's got home court, and I know Houston's a good team. Houston has definitely earned my respect in this series, because like I said, I didn't think it was going past 5. So I'll give all credit due to Houston. No doubt about it. They deserve every ounce of it. For even taking it to 7 against the defending NBA champions, a team that's been in the NBA Finals for basically the last 2 or 3 years. And this is really a big moment for Houston. If they take down this team, Uh, it's winning an NBA championship in the West this year with this Golden State team would be ridiculously impressive. It would be worth 2 championships, in my opinion. So if they pull it off, all power to them. I don't expect them to, but the fact that they're here pretty much says they have a shot. And you know, when we talk about having a shot, though, let's talk about the other side now. Another conference finals going to Game 7. We got Boston and Cleveland going on right now. Tip-off was just a couple of minutes ago. And, LeBron and the Cavs did exactly what they needed to do. Game 6, they went out and they won 109 to 99. They forced Game 7. LeBron went out there, had another amazing game. 46 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. The guy is, you really can't argue he's a top 5 all-time player. He's, love him or hate him, the guy is, if he wins tonight, he will be in his 8th consecutive NBA final. 8th consecutive. No one's even approached that since those Celtics teams in the 60s. No one's even comes close. And he's carried this team on his back for the last 2 rounds. If he wasn't on this team, they'd be lucky to win 35 games. And if LeBron loses tonight, there's no shame in it. I mean, the team is gutted. He got them this far. Cavs fans should be proud of themselves. But to be honest, this could be a replay of what we saw happen in 2010. The last time LeBron lost in a playoff game like this, where his team was eliminated before the NBA final, was May 13th, 2010. And they were eliminated that night in the semifinal by the Boston Celtics in 6 games. And that was LeBron's last game that he played with Cleveland until he came back a couple of years ago. Now, you got to say to yourself, this is a guy that hasn't not been in. This is the first time since 2010 that he will not participate in a final. If he loses tonight, he still has a good chance of doing it because the guy is just incredible. Once you see him get going, man, it's tough to stop him. And I don't think he gets it done. I'm not saying that it's impossible because, like I said, the guy is great. But I just think Boston is too good, and especially in Boston. If it was in Cleveland, I'd actually say it was a slam dunk LeBron going to win. But the fact that it's in Boston, Boston's got this far. I didn't think Boston was going to get this far without Kyrie, to be honest. I thought we were going to see a little bit more of the Toronto Raptors. And the Toronto Raptors just, boy, did they just not get the job done. They laid an egg like few first seed teams have ever done. And it cost their head coach his job. I don't know if that was rightfully so, though, but he got axed. And, this could be Cleveland's last chance, though, because LeBron, like I was saying, he's got the opportunity to opt out. This could be his last game in Cleveland ever, as a Cav. It depends where his mind is at. Does he believe, does he want to stay in Cleveland? Maybe he wants to go to the West Coast. Maybe he wants to go to L.A. The guy's basically a movie star. He could be a movie star. He's always doing commercials and everything. He might as well hang out in L.A. and live out there. He never, maybe that's where his heart's at now. Maybe he decides to go to the big time and come to Madison Square Garden. Now, I know that's a pipe dream. I'd love to see it. Who wouldn't? But I doubt that's going to happen. I doubt LeBron leaves the Cavs to come to the Knicks. But crazier things have happened. But you never know. He could stay with the Cavs, but there's a lot of things pointing to that this could be his final game. So this could be the Cavs' last chance. If they don't win this game tonight, this could be a lot of teams' last chance because Boston, man. Boston has, they had a chance to get between the 2 and the 5 this year in the first round. The number 2, 3, 4, or 5 pick. They could have had it. It didn't work out in their favor. So they're just going to end up with their regular pick, whatever it is, probably 30 at the end of the year. Next year, they're going to have Sacramento's number 1 pick, and Sacramento is a bad team. So this is probably going to be a top 5 pick. So that's a real big win for Boston getting that. And Boston made it this far without Kyrie Irving and without Gordon Hayward. Those are two really good players. And to add those two players, plus whatever first-round pick they have this year, plus whatever first-round pick they have next year, this is going to be a stacked Boston team. And it's going to be real tough to get through them. So the Cavs this could be the last hurrah for Eastern Conference team for a while, because Boston could have this conference on lock for quite some time, which also worries me because they're in the Knicks division, and one of the easy ways to get in the playoffs would have been having a bad division, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case anymore, as the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics both share the Knicks division, so it just keeps getting harder and harder, and I don't expect it to change. We're going to see a great Game 7 tonight, so tune in. There's going to be another great Game 7 tomorrow night between Golden State and Houston. Tonight we got the Cavs and the Celtics, so check it out. And it could either be the exact same NBA final that we've seen for the last 3 years, or it could be a new, fresh final, even if there's only one different team. So we'll see. By tomorrow, we'll at least know half of the participants, and that's for the NBA. But for the NHL now, one thing we have to remember is that now we've been sitting here for almost a week waiting for the Stanley Cup Final to start. They got to get these things figured out quicker. I mean, let's go. We really couldn't be starting the Stanley Cup Final tonight. You have to start it tomorrow night. I mean, I get it, but well, we got the Washington Capitals against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, this is the first Stanley Cup Final appearance for Vegas. It's the first time that expansion teams ever made it this far, and they're trying to have the best expansion season in the history of sports, at least in North America. And no team's ever done it. To be a team that still a year ago at this time they didn't even have a roster. They didn't know who was going to be on their team, and to be in the Stanley Cup Final right now is just crazy. And when we look at Washington, the Washington Capitals, they really got a monkey off their back this year, no doubt about it, because this is a team that had not even gotten out of the second round since 1998. And that's what they've had Ovechkin since 2005. Ovechkin is one of the best players. He's a guy that can score 50 goals with his eyes closed. And to sit here and not have anything from this team, past the second round of the playoffs really is surprising. But the last time they had made it this far was 1998, where they lost in the Stanley Cup Final to the Detroit Red Wings. They got swept 4-0. But other than that, really incredibly, this team has been around for 40 years, and the only time they even had made it to the conference final was 1989 and 1998. This year, where they went in 2018, was only the third time ever. I mean, in contrast, the Rangers have been to the conference final 3 times since 2012. They lost to the Devils in 2012. They beat the Canadiens in 2014, and they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2015. It was a good run for the Rangers, but it ended with that loss. They unfortunately, nobody knew until this year, but that was their last hurrah. But as I was saying, Vegas could have the greatest expansion season in sports history. They had such an incredible season. They only went through a couple of times where they had a rough go of it, where you weren't really sure if they were going to be able to keep it going. But when you look at this as a whole, the Vegas Golden Knights, they're comprised of players that know how to win. You have guys like James Neal, this guy has been on the Penguins. He's been on the Nashville Predators. You have a bunch of young kids too who who really don't know where they're at right now. And then in goal, you have a Hall of Famer in Marc-Andre Fleury. Um, I gotta say, I'm a Ranger fan, and I've seen a lot of Marc-Andre Fleury over the years. And it's taken a long time to fully appreciate what this guy gives. And I've knocked him out of the play. Well, yeah, I haven't, but the Rangers, I've seen him knocked out of the playoffs before, and I've seen the Rangers knocked out of the playoffs by his play. And I never really fully appreciated how good he was until this year. And I'll tell you why. Because when you see one of the main things that Pittsburgh was missing in their Stanley Cup playoff run this season was a goalie. Matt Murray did not play good. Sure, Matt Murray played good the last couple of years when he had um, Fleury to fall back on, but that was not the case in this playoff run. In this playoff run, you had Matt Murray let a couple of real soft goals get through, and that's the main reason why they lost to Washington in the first place. And not to take anything away from Washington, because Washington got the job done. Braden Holtby, their goaltender, has played some of the best hockey of his career, some of the best hockey that I've seen. So I'm not taking anything away from them, but I'm thinking if Pittsburgh still had Marc-Andre Fleury, Pittsburgh would probably still be in the playoffs. I think Pittsburgh would be in their third straight Stanley Cup final. But instead, Marc-Andre Fleury is in his third straight Stanley Cup final, and Marc-Andre Fleury is going for his fourth Stanley Cup, and he's been to five. I mean, the guy is just incredible, and he does not get the credit he deserves, including from me until this season. And seeing what he's done with this young team, this indiscriminate team, a bunch of cast-offs for the most part, who nobody really expected much from. And I will say that Vegas did get a leg up on a lot of expansion teams this year because they pretty much got to pick a bunch of second-line players off a lot of teams. And they also got to pick a future Hall of Fame goaltender. But uh, you still had to do it. You still had to go out there. You still had all these guys. You had 20-plus guys in this team that had to mesh in the exact perfect way. And, these guys meshed. And you saw right from the beginning, they were going out there scoring 5, 6, 7 goals a night. You have young kids. And Fleury was hurt for a little portion of this year. So, of course, he's helped them and carried them late in the year and into the playoffs. But there was a while where they were really mixing and matching with their goalies. And they really didn't know what to do. they, they were running out kids there that I'd never even heard of. They had, PK Subban's brother was being run out there, who's a good prospect, and he's a young goalie, but he's untested. And he's probably going to have a long career in the NHL. But the question was he ready? And boy, as a backup, he stepped up. And when he needed to start in those spots and everything, when they ran him out there, he got the job done. And they helped keep, just like I was saying about the Mets earlier, they kept their heads above water, although they did have, a big advantage. They got that great start. But even when they had to go through their rough patches, they kept their heads above water and got the job done. The Washington Capitals, on the other hand, this is a team that has lived at the top of the Eastern Conference for the last few years. They've won a couple of President's Trophies around the Rangers' last President's Trophy. I think they've won 2 or 3. And they've been one of the better teams out there, one of the harder teams to play. I don't like Barry Trotz, but they've been one of the better coached teams in the league. And it looks like their star player and their captain, Alexander Ovechkin, is being just that. He went out there and set the tone, scoring a goal in the first minute of Game 7, and just letting everybody know that they're not going away easy. And they've been rolling ever since. They shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6. They shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 7. And they just, they rolled right into the Stanley Cup final now. And, you have a the one worry I would have about the Capitals is a letdown, because it kind of feels like they won their Stanley Cup already. They got out of you know this malaise they've been in of not being able to get out of the second round, and not only did they get out of the second round, they won, and they won a Game 7, which they've had trouble doing. Uh, they won a big Game 7, and they, the Washington Capitals got a big win, and that has not been in the DNA of this franchise. It really has not. They've had a lot of chokes. They've had a lot of great regular seasons, but it has never ended with that ultimate prize. And the ultimate prize is standing right in front of them right now. What are you guys going to do? Are you going to live up to the moment? Is Alexander Ovechkin going to take his spot in the Hall of Fame with a Stanley Cup championship? Is he going to get that ring? Is he going to get that ring in Washington? Who knows? Maybe they lose. Maybe he's got to leave at some point and go to a team with a chance to get a Stanley Cup championship. But if they get that done right now, you've got 7 games. You've got the best of 7. Alexander Ovechkin has been called, aside from Sidney Crosby, he's been called one of the best players in the league, the best goal scorer in the league, and has been that for quite some time, winning the Rocket Richard Trophy a couple times. And now this is it. This is the big stage, my friend. Can you beat Vegas? Can you beat the phenom team that's come out of nowhere, that didn't even exist this time last year on paper? And now, can you get the job done? That's the big question. And when you talk about getting the job done this season, 2 teams that didn't get the job done were the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. And I want to touch on them for a couple of minutes before we end here. We got a few minutes left. And the New York Rangers formally introduced David Quinn as their head coach. I like what I heard. I liked a lot of what I heard from him. But, I've said the same thing about Mickey Callaway at the end of last year on my show, Coffee with Cramer. And, I like what I heard, but that doesn't mean anything right now. The Rangers have a lot to do now. The next time that I have a chance to be on the air is sometime in late June, which would be a lot closer to the NHL draft. And maybe we'll have a clearer picture of what the Rangers are doing then. But right now, it's all a guessing game. They've got 3 first-round picks. And, I hear David Quinn talking about making, taking this team up. It's a young team, and just doing, doing the little things and installing a winning, feeling into this team and everything. But, and he's talking about specifically dealing with the youth. Well, the one thing that I have to question that is there are a lot of rumors going around that the Rangers want to sign 35-year-old Russian free agent Ilya Kovalchuk. So, how does that fit into a youth movement? Are the Rangers going to stay committed to this youth movement, or are they going to try to take a shortcut, which could work or could not work, with Kovalchuk? Rumors are that they'd have to give him $6 million, which the Rangers have cap space, but $6 million coming to a 35-year-old guy. Is it really cost effective? Is it worth it? Which young guys are they going to be bringing in now? They've got, a bunch of prospects they've got for the trades that they acquired. When they traded guys like McDonough and Michael Grabner and JT Miller and Rick Nash. They traded all these guys, and they've got these young kids coming in. They're going to be flush with talent. Let's see. There's one name on the free agent market that I'm sure would interest every New York Ranger fan, and that would be Ilya Kovalchuk. No, it's not Ilya Kovalchuk. It's John Tavares. But there's another fan base in the New York area that would be just as interested in John Tavares. That's the New York Islanders. And in my opinion, the New York Islanders took a big step forward in bringing him back. Now, I don't know if they're going to, hit a home run and actually bring him back, convince him to stay while they have their new stadium project underway. But this 27-year-old superstar who is hitting free agency for the first time in his career would be remiss to ignore the fact that the Islanders formally announced Lou Lamoriello taking over as president of hockey operations. Now that is amazing for them. For those of you who don't know who Lou Lamoriello is, he was the man in charge of the Devils for quite some time when they won a couple of Stanley Cup championships under him. He was the man that just recently turned around the Toronto Maple Leafs and turned the Maple Leafs into a contender again and hired their head coach and from the Detroit Red Wings, Mike Babcock, and really revamped that team and sent them into a new direction. Now, Lou seems to get under the skin of management pretty easily and gets taken out of these positions, but the fact that the Islanders brought him in, that Scott Malkin, the Islanders' new ownership, saw a great hockey man sitting out there and took him, is a big step in the right direction for this entire franchise. You need a guy like Lamoriello to grab this team by the horns and put them where you want to go. That's what you need. The Islanders there's no one in hockey, and there was definitely no one in the Islanders organization before this that I would trust more than Lou Lamoriello to take those 2 first-round picks the Islanders have. They have number 11 and number 12 overall. Lou's going to get something with them. Now, whether it's drafting a player in those spots, taking 11 and 12 and drafting 2 young players, which would be good, but you never know. Maybe Lou goes out there and flips one of those. Maybe he flips both of them. Lou is he's a great hockey mind, and bringing him in there is exactly what the Islanders need. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that Garth Snow didn't get let go. I wouldn't want, but at this point he's probably just a Lou Lamoriello puppet, because Garth Snow is terrible. I'm sorry if you like him. He's an Islander fan. I know there's Islander fans who probably feel sympathetic towards him one way or the other, but he's not a good GM. He's got a couple of players over here, but he never did what needed to be done to turn the Islanders around. But you know who will do what needs to be done to turn the Islanders around? Lou Lamoriello. And I'm not saying that he gives that he 100% will re-sign Tavares. I'm not even saying it's 10% he's going to re-sign Tavares. But he gives the Islanders more credibility and more ability to sign him than they did yesterday, than they did before they hired Lou Lamoriello. He is the type of guy that can rebuild your franchise, and even if they have to do it without Tavares, Lou Lamoriello is the guy. You've got 11 and 12 overall in this draft, and this is going to be one of the most fun NHL drafts that we've seen in a long time, as the Rangers and the Islanders have combined 5 first-round picks, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll probably be on that weekend, actually, sometime at the end of June. You can follow me on Twitter at Cramer New York, Cramer New York, NY, and you can also follow Coffee with Cramer at CoffeeWCramer. You can check us out for any of those updates. Check out my upcoming podcast on Coffee with Cramer, and check out Sports Talk 1240 on Facebook and Twitter. Give us a like. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a terrific Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for listening to me, and I really appreciate this opportunity, and this is a lot of fun. I hope you have a fun and safe Memorial Day tomorrow. Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening over at Farmingdale University and all my family, and thank you, everybody. Thank you to Brian behind the glass, and everybody have a great weekend. Have a great one.